Hi everybody, it's Erin and we are back, and I wanted to show you some fun new dies I got in, and plus we are also going to show some fun ways of using some of your nesting dies. So let's take a look at this first. So I just got in this yummy little package from scrapbook.com, and it's all with their products. So these are some of the Wafer die sets that they have, and I wanted to show you some fun ideas that we can do. And then obviously we have adhesive, some ink, and a stamp block, which I love, a curvy stamp block. That's pretty fun. So first of all, we're going to take a look at our wafer thin dies, and let's take a look at some ideas of what we can do with them. All right, the first one we're going to do is these are all nesting dies, as you can tell. So we're going to go step by step, and we're going to do 6 different techniques where I can show you how these nesting dies work for a ton of different things. Now, as you can tell with nesting dies, you have a series of different dies that are all identical. They just gradually get larger and larger and larger. So this one, I'm taking the die that looks like it's third from the smallest. And with this particular set, we also get a whole bunch of little, there's actually a small tiny one here too, but we also get a series of little eyelet kind of sections here. It's on a sticky back, which means that when you are done using these, you can easily put them back and pop them back onto your die sticker sheets. The first thing I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to just do direct cutting. So we're going to do that for both die sets. And I just have a sheet of, this is just canvas core paper, and it's got cream on one side and kind of a yellow stripe on the other side. I am using a cuttle bug, and when you use a cuttle bug, the plates for wafer thin dies are the A, B, and C plates. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my die. And quick rule of thumb to make sure your dies don't wiggle around on you, especially when you're layering them, which we're going to get to in a little bit, is I like to tape them down. So I'm actually going to take my, just so you can see very easily, I pulled out this one little die piece, and I'm going to tape this piece down right here. Oops. And also, the other thing, there's 2 sides to your dies. I almost did it wrong. One side of your die has got a little lip to it. The other side is flat. The lip is the one that's actually going to cut. Same with this. We're going to tag this in, and if you look, there is a little notch that fits into, and therefore that's where you get the correct hole placement. I then take my washi tape, and that is what is going to hold everything in place. And I'm pretty sure that's going to do its job. I don't need it to like fully stick down. I mostly want to make sure this little piece and the big die set do not shift around on me. I am also going to take this star die right here, and I'm going to show you how to direct die cut this one as well. And I just picked a random shape. There's no right or wrong to this. Go ahead and lay this down. I went ahead and did both in terms of laying them down by taping them, just to make sure they don't wiggle on me as I roll them through. You place it in, and either you could place it so that this directly cuts. I truly, and I've done it a bunch of times, I don't like die cutting directly onto my A plates. I'd prefer to put my B plate and then my C plate on top, or C and then B plate on top. We'll run it through. You're going to hear creaks and cracks. That's okay. Cleanly that popped out. All I need to do now, the reason why I love the washi tape also is because it very does cleanly come out. And look, there's my beautiful die. Now, if I was a little more persnickety about which direction I wanted my stripes to be on my star, I probably could have went ahead and die cut it with the stripes facing towards me, and then placed my die exactly where I wanted it to be. So as I'm orientating this star, I know how the alignment's going to be, because I would be able to glue it in place or tape it in place. Okay, so let's take a look at the die pieces. And now I have a cute little tag. So from just a couple of quick shapes, we can make a very sweet little tag that can be used for all kinds of purposes. And I'm just going to quickly ink the edges to make it an illusion of having another layer of color when there really isn't one. You could also ink the star, but I'm not going to. I'm then going to take my tape runner, layer it onto my star, just like that. I know I've gotten a little bit of something on there. And then I'm going to take a stamp. I just found something that was quick and easy in my stash of stamps. This one happens to come from Brutus Monroe. Go ahead and ink that up. Stamp directly on your little star there. This makes for a very easy little card when you have a couple of quick shapes that you can punch out, or a tag in this particular case. So that's one of the reasons why I love having die shapes or die cuts in simple shapes. I can size up and size down whatever I like, and it makes for very quick and easy little projects. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to create another fun little tag, but this time we're going to show you how to nest the sizes in front to create thin shapes. So you want to get your shapes, and you could do every single one, or you could just do one or two. It is up to you. For this particular project, I am going to take, and I need to lift this one up. So take whatever shapes you would like to create, and you are going to nest them inside each other. So I'm going to create a series of small stars. So I'm going to have 3 different star shapes on this one. Go ahead and line my die right back in here. I'm using the same paper I did before. And now what you have here, especially when you line them up just right, is you have a whole series, and I'm going to pop these out individually, a whole series of little star shapes that have the centers cut out. So what can you do with that? Well, there's a couple of different things. The first one is you can go ahead and nest them back and invert them. And you end up getting a pretty cool shape just by inverting the colors. And just think about all the different things. You can also, especially if your die shapes are exactly symmetrical, you can play with which direction the lines are going. You could also remove the shapes and you're left with a shape within a shape, and you have a gap in between versus putting a piece on here. You can also take your shapes and you can layer them. And you can have fun how they can layer on top of each other to create kind of a cool layered effect on something. So there's lots of possibilities. So I went ahead and cut out a larger tag for this one, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and ink the edges. Again, I love that ink, the edge inked. I think it looks really fun. And then I'm going to take my stars and I'm going to layer them up in the center here. I'm going to start with the largest star and just go ahead and take my tape runner, and it's going to almost fit perfectly. Get that as close to the center as I possibly can. Like I said, you could, if you wanted to, you could start layering them up and having fun. And if you use two-sided paper, meaning that the colors on each side are a little bit different, this is where you can have fun with the layers looking a little bit different. So now you can take another layer, ink it up, place it inside. If you wanted to ink up your layers between each one, you're more than welcome to do so. I chose not to because I wanted to look a little more clean. Then take my final star, put ink, and I'm going to make sure that my lines are completely going the different direction than it was before. And take a fun little stamp, whatever stamp that you like. And I'm just going to do something very simple. Make sure I can read it. And it just says, shoot for the stars. Super simple. You are more than welcome to add little banners and tags to the top of these things, but it's just showing you basically kind of the gist of how to use your nesting dies. All right, the next one that we're going to do is going to be all about cutting a shape out of a card, so creating a pocket, a window. So this is another fun way where you can use your dies. So take your card, whatever your card base may happen to be, and go ahead and lay it down onto your surface. And we are going to use the star die for this. And I'm going to use a larger star. Go ahead and place that down. And again, washi tape is your friend to make sure this is exactly where you want it to lay. This is another reason why I like the washi tape, because this is the actual card I'm going to be using for my project. And I want to make sure that it has a nice clean cut, so it's not leaving any gaps. I'm also going to take a smaller die. We are going to do the one just smaller to that. We're going to actually do a little bit of a 2-layered method here. So now I'm going to take a little bit of paper that's craft on black. And we are going to nest these stars into each other just like we did on the previous one. So go ahead and nest them in. This time I'm only doing the smallest 2 shapes. So we can take the smaller 2 shapes and nest them into each other. Now, it is absolutely fine that my paper is, I've got 2 sheets on one die, and I also have part of my card off the edge. There's not a problem on that. So what we are now going to do is go ahead and run these through. So now I have a card that's got a little peekaboo pocket shape that's right here in the middle. There's a few different things you can do with this. The first and most obvious one is you can take a sheet of paper and actually back on the inside, and you have a nice little window. So whatever color that you have on the inside of your card is what you're going to see. Another option, which is what we're going to do, is we are actually going to peekaboo. So I'm going to very briefly close this, and I'm going to tape it shut just so that it's not moving around on me. So it's going to get taped shut just right here on my craft mat, just to make life simple for myself. Very easy. And I'm going to take my star and I'm going to place it just inside here, and then place the other star inside there. Keep life nice and simple. Same concept as what we had before, where you're layering the stars just inside of each other. If I wanted to have something fun, I could easily do something like this, or I could mix match them. But I think with the fact that we've got a layer within a layer within a layer, I love the look of having it all kind of separate. So what we are going to do now is I'm going to take my tape runner, just like I've done before. I'm going to go ahead and do the first layer, which is going to be the black layer. And when I place it in, I want to make sure that my card is closed, so I layer in exactly where I want it to be on my card. So just perfectly lined up. And then I'm going to come in, and this time I'm going to do the craft. The center of my star is now craft. And line that up in there. And now the insert of my card, it's got a pretty little star on the inside, and which you can see from the front. So it's kind of a cool little insert piece, just a little hidden peekaboo something. So I'm going to come in with another stamp, and this one says "You are picture perfect." And I'm just going to very carefully stamp on the outside, and I kind of smudge that a little bit, but you get the gist of the idea. If you wanted to go ahead and ink any of this, add some fun stuff, but sometimes simple cards are just beautiful as they are. You don't have to do a lot of fancy stuff to make them kind of stand out and be cool. All right, another fun thing that you can do is what's called a partial cut. So I'm going to take this small little tag that I had made earlier that I never used, and I'm going to go ahead and die cut out a section, and I'm going to line it up so I just have a little bit of my star poking off the side. So we're going to use a die that's just a little bit, the star die, not the smallest one, but the second smallest one, and I'm just going to line this just off to the edge of my die. Washi tape again is my friend to make sure it's lined up just perfectly. So go ahead and line that up just on there, as you can see. And I'm going to go ahead and run this one first. So as you can see, a section of my card has now been cut out, and I can do a couple of things. I can come back in and I can layer something behind it. I can come in and add another star on top. So what I'm doing right now is I want to cut a second die. I want to cut a second tag for this this tag to rest inside, to kind of show off that fun little piece that's being cut out. So I am first going to nestle this on here. I am then going to place my first die on here, and I'm also going to replace my circle. I can make my circle wherever I want with a nesting die system like this. So now I'm going to place this nicely in here. First I'm going to place this down. I actually don't want to recut my hole on this, but I'm just going to lay it down so I know exactly where it wants to be. So I'm just double checking. I can lift this up now because I know it's where I would like it to be. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I'm also going to recut my star, and since I'm using a very tiny scrap of paper, I love being able to reuse my papers. I'm going to very gently lay it down on here so that way I know everywhere there's paper I will cut, and then go ahead and die cut this. So I have my star, and I have my new tag with the hole in the middle, and it's got quite a large hole, but that's fine because this is just going to rest right on top of it. And then I can take my star from the piece I cut out and lay it right inside of there, and it creates kind of a fun little piece. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this all together. First thing is I'm going to take my tag, and I'm just doing very simple colors. I am not pulling in all kinds of big bright colors on this. I'm going very simplistic because I feel like sometimes that's all you need. Go ahead and line this up. Make sure you do, if you do cut out any sections like this, that you do glue down any sections that are small and little like that. Okay, then I'm going to take my larger one, but I do want to be careful that I do not misalign. Like I already have misaligned this little guy right here. There we go. Go ahead and lay my star on here, and I realize that anything that's on this side is not going to get adhesive. So just do the adhesive on this side. And this is where you can have fun with your color combinations if you like. Make sure that you're using colors that work well together and have fun with it. If you want to ink any of this stuff, you can as well. And it makes for now kind of a fun off-center die. It looks like pieces. If you wanted to come back in and have some fun, because now I've pulled out another section, makes it even more fun. I think I'm gonna do that. I like that, it's kind of fun. Lots of options here. Ways to use the pieces that you've die cut out to kind of create cool, almost optical illusions for yourself. I've lined it up right on that edge there. Everything is nicely lined up. Easy, simple. You can add sentiment. This one I'm going to leave blank just for fun and then just kind of leave it as is. All right, next section I'm going to show you is how to emboss. So I've taken one of the larger dies. This is now the third from the largest. I love how big some of these pieces can be. And I'm also going to take a series of smaller, but this time we're going to flip them over because we're going to leave an impression on here. I'm going to take a whole bunch of the smaller stars. We're going to invert them. So when you take when you're doing the embossing part of it, you want to make sure that the upwards, the side that's cutting, is facing up. So I'm going to lay in the smallest ones I possibly can inside the frame. I only can fit a couple as of right now, but we are going to do more. And just for making sure that things do not shift around on me because I'm leaving loose pieces, I will go ahead and tape them down so they don't wiggle on me. And you're not going to get a cut. You're going to get an embossed shape. Very slight, but it will be there. So we're going to go ahead and run this through. And you can ever so slightly see on here, there is a very slightly embossed raised. It's very faint, it's very minuscule, but it is there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of the larger shapes and some of the smaller shapes. So I'm going to take a larger star die now, and I'm going to place it over top. We're going to get some angular motions with this. Actually, I think I'm going to go with the biggest one here first. So I'm going to place this over top. Get lots of fun layers going on, and you can do this as many times as you want. I'm also going to take a smaller die and come in here like that, and I think I'm going to take this one right here and go in here like that. Make sure again also you are raising them so that the cut side is facing upward. So now that we're flipping it over, you could do both sides, but I think I like the black a little bit better. It is showing up just a tiny bit better, and you can really just see that little edge of the emboss on there with all the fun shapes of the stars. As I hold it towards me this direction, I can see them, and you can see as it's kind of hitting the gloss of the paper is reflecting those stars. So you could leave it plain like that. I want to take it a step further, and I actually want to enhance each of those stars by popping them out with a little bit of a white pen. So I am just going to trace the stars. There we go. I had to keep angling it because I was trying to find the exact, but now you've got kind of a fun background with all these cool stars. Earlier, I had already cut out a star from my card, and so I'm going to use that and layer that just right here. Go ahead and put the ink on here, and just creates kind of a cool background, something kind of fun. You could definitely leave it plain. You would not have to trace it like I did, but it just adds a little something different. With an easy stamp, and boom, it's such a large tag, it could easily be used just as a card all by itself. The last fun element you can do is you can actually make large ornaments, or you can do large individual items all by itself by cutting out each of these shapes individually. So the first one I'm going to start off with, because it takes up the entire size of the die, is the giant star, because we're going to use every single star that's on here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to cut out each one of the stars individually in a different color. So I've now cut out my 5 different dies that came. These are 5 pieces in this particular set, and I'm just going to go ahead and layer them up. I'm not going to ink them. I'm just going to leave them as is. Layer one on top of the other. You use coordinating colors, it really does make it look kind of fun and cool, and you could even, punch a little hole. This could be a very easy kids Christmas craft, especially with the star, or it's just something fun that you can stick on your layouts. I mean, for scrapbooking, very simple. for stopping by and checking out my 6 different ways of using your nested dies. The 2 nested dies that we use came from scrapbook.com. We use the stars and we use the tags. And there are so many fun ways that you can use them on their own or combined together to create a very fun and easy and simple designs for tags and cards and scrapbook layouts and even ornaments. So thanks so much for stopping by. All supplies are listed below, links below, so that way you can check them out. Thanks so much and please subscribe. Bye-bye.